The Gingerbread Man's Secret. Mia loved baking. Every Christmas, she and her mom spent hours in the kitchen, rolling out dough, cutting shapes, and decorating cookies with bright icing and colorful candies. This year, Mia begged her mom to let her try something different. "I want to make the biggest gingerbread man ever," Mia declared, holding up a cookie cutter shaped like a little person. "But not tiny like these. I mean huge, as big as a real man." Her mom laughed. "Well, I suppose we can try. But don't get too carried away, sweetie." They worked together to mix the dough, but Mia's imagination ran wild. She added extra cinnamon to make him smell special and carefully carved his features by hand, skipping the cookie cutter altogether. His arms were long, his legs slightly uneven, and his face had an unsettling crooked smile. "He's perfect," Mia whispered as she stuck 2 red candy buttons on his chest and drew his boots and gloves with thick white icing. "Perfectly creepy, if you ask me," her mom said, raising an eyebrow. "You've got an odd sense of style, Mia." Mia just grinned. "I'll name him Button," she said proudly, sliding the oversized cookie into the oven. That night, Button sat on a silver platter in the center of the dining table. Mia stared at him from across the room as her mom cleaned up the kitchen. "He almost looks alive," Mia thought to herself, shivering. She laughed it off, blaming the flickering Christmas lights for making his candy eyes glint. As bedtime rolled around, Mia begged to take Button upstairs. "Mia," her mom said sternly, "it's just a cookie. Leave it here. Please?" "I worked so hard on him," Mia pleaded. "I don't even want to eat him. He's like my little friend." With a sigh, her mom relented, and soon, Button was sitting on a plate on Mia's desk. "Good night, Button," Mia whispered as she climbed into bed. At first, Mia dreamed of Christmas trees and snowflakes. But her dreams took a strange turn. She was back in the kitchen, only this time, the oven door was shaking violently. A loud banging echoed in her ears, and she heard a voice calling her name. "Mia." Her eyes flew open. The room was dark, but something wasn't right. She sat up, squinting at the desk. Button's plate was empty. "Mom?" Mia called softly, but there was no answer. A faint scuttling sound came from the floor. Mia froze. Slowly, she leaned over the edge of the bed and peered down. 2 glowing red eyes stared back at her. Button stood on his stubby legs, his icing arms twitching. His licorice smile twisted unnaturally as he tilted his head. "You shouldn't have made me, Mia," he said in a low, sugary voice. Mia gasped, scrambling back against the headboard. "You're just a cookie. This isn't real." "Oh, I'm real," Button hissed, his tiny boots clicking against the floor as he began to climb the side of her bed. "And I don't like being trapped on a plate." Mia screamed, grabbing a pillow and swatting at him. Button fell to the floor with a thud, but he quickly stood back up, his red candy buttons glowing ominously. "You'll regret that," he growled, lunging toward her. Mia leaped off the bed and ran out of the room, slamming the door behind her. She sprinted down the hall, but the sound of his boots on the hardwood floor followed her. He was fast, too fast for something so small. She reached the kitchen and grabbed the first thing she saw, a rolling pin. Button appeared in the doorway, his frosting-covered hands reaching out for her. "This house isn't big enough for both of us," he sneered. With a yell, Mia swung the rolling pin, knocking one of his candy buttons clean off. Button let out an ear-piercing scream, his body crumbling slightly. "Stop," he cried, but Mia kept swinging. Finally, Button collapsed into a pile of crumbs on the floor. Mia stood there, panting, as the house fell silent. The next morning, Mia told her mom everything. "You've been watching too many scary movies," her mom said with a chuckle, sweeping up the crumbs. But as Mia sat at the table, she noticed something strange. On the counter, where Button's plate had been, was a single message scrawled in red frosting. "You can't get rid of me." Mia's heart sank. Somewhere in the house, she could hear the faint sound of tiny boots clicking against the floor. Subscribe to @NoSleepZone on YouTube and @NoSleepZone TikToks for more terrifying stories.